Our Michigan governor has dropped out of the race, saying the political environment has gotten increasingly negative and he's not willing to run that type of campaign. Former Republican House Speaker Tom Leonard from DeWitt announcing the end of his campaign on social media this morning. He had already met the threshold to appear on the August primary ballot, but in his announcement, he said a negative campaign is not how he believes public service should be done, saying, quote, "Sadly, the system rewards sound bites over substance, theater over seriousness, and personal attacks over real policy debate." The Republican primary is now down to Congressman John James, former Michigan Attorney General Mike Cox, businessman Perry Johnson, Michigan Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, and Pastor Ralph Reband.
A live look.